everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hidden Gems. With me is Leibing, who's on our developer relations team. You might have seen him do quite a few workshops, also been in a lot of Twitter spaces, and has also ran a bunch of hackathons at Covalent. Super excited about this specific segment because this is going to be particularly going over Covalent API use cases. And it's a commonly asked question that we get on what can I actually do with the API? What are examples that developers or people who don't even have coding experience, what have they been able to build? So Leibing, would love if you could actually go over some use cases. And I guess before that, also be able to explain to people how Covalent fits into the Web3 tech stack.
All right. Now, before we begin, it's important to understand what exactly is Covalent in relation to the Web3 tech stack. Typically, as you know, blockchain data is hosted in nodes. To access the data, you can either spin up the node yourself or access it through a node provider like Infura, Alchemy, or Chainstack, etc. Most people use the latter approach, as hosting your own node requires terabytes of data and sometimes days or weeks to sync everything to your local computer. Even so, when you try building with JSON RPC, you quickly run into limitations, especially in cases when you need aggregated data, right? So consider this very common example. You have a wallet address and you want to get the token balances of that wallet address. The problem is with the JSON RPC approaches, you have to go fetch the balance of each individual token with a dedicated request. To get the token balances of the native network token ETH, for instance, using the RPC, you can use the ETH_getBalance call. Then to get the balance of your ERC20 tokens, you'd have to supply each of the contract addresses to an ETH core post request, where you have to generate tedious and confusing data parameters. Most people use the balance off methods of libraries like web3.js or ethers.js. But even so, you still have to get the list of all the token addresses you're holding for a particular wallet. Now then, there's the catch-22. How would you know the addresses of the token you're holding if you don't know which tokens a wallet has in the first place, right? In short, such a simple use case is very complicated with JSON RPC. With Covalent, you can just use an endpoint, such as the one that we have, get token balances for address, and you'll be able to get everything that you need, even quotes of a particular wallet. It reduces something that is prohibitively tedious to just one step. Of course, this is not the only data that Covalent provides. We provide data across all common Web3 categories so that you can spin up most Web3 apps all with one API call. For instance, you can get the NFTs of your wallet. You can get the recent transactions of your wallet. You can also get multi-chain assets that we support across over 100 plus blockchains. And for our DeFi users, you can get the TVL, the volume, the fees of liquidity pools, the 30-day time series of volume liquidity fees, also all liquidity pool transactions. The best part of the API is that it supports over 100 plus blockchains. So if your users request for a new chain next time, it'll be super easy to start supporting it. No need extra effort, right? Let's go through some of the top categories of use cases. Number one, wallets. As mentioned earlier, Covalent has a get balances for address endpoint that is useful for getting all the token balances of an address. This endpoint is very useful for building wallet displays, such as number one here. The endpoint returns all the token logos, balances, ticker contract address, ticker names, quote in USD or any other 13 currencies that we support, as well as a 24-hour change that you can use to render the percentage change that you see in this green highlighted text here. So with just one API call, you have all the data you need to build this entire screen. Of course, you don't just find user balances in a wallet display. They are literally everywhere in Web3, right? When you're using a swap interface like Uniswap, they're on the token display page. When you're using a bridge, your token is displayed on the screen. When you're using a staking platform, your tokens are displayed on the screen, which is why this endpoint is so popular amongst devs of all Web3 verticals. Apart from that, we also return a user's NFT token balances when you set NFT equals to true with this endpoint, so that you can proceed further to render your user's NFT holdings, such as in number 2 below. Alternatively, you can also use the get NFTs for address endpoint to render all the user's NFTs. Second use case. Another screen that is indispensable within wallets is a user's historical transactions page. Within wallets, they may look like 4 above or something like this. Now, the beauty of the Covalent API again is that you can render every single transaction along with all the detailed information within that transaction, all with one API call. Let's take a look at this sample transaction explorer that we built in React. Now, everything on the page is built with one API call. Now, despite its sleek look, there's actually a lot of data that is returned. First, you have the token that's transferred along with the amounts. You have the direction of the transfer, incoming or outgoing or swap, the gas fees paid, as well as the events emitted from the transaction. The best thing about this endpoint is that it returns heaps of data. Compare this with the get transaction of JSON RPC. Now, with all these data, you can easily pipe it into the front end and build an interface that looks like this. After the initial load, all your transactions will be there. You can see how fast it is. Third use case. Now, one of the things that transactions data is very useful for is building on-chain taxation tools. With every transaction, you would have a cost basis for the token, and by getting the current value of the token, you would be able to derive your ROI, or simply put, a percentage return. A taxation use case is one which fits very well with Covalent API's offerings because typically you'll need both the asset amount purchased as well as its value at time of purchase, which Covalent provides. You'll need it across different chains. So if you're building a multi-chain taxation tool, right, one-click taxation tool, Covalent is really useful for that. Covalent's NFT offering is also very robust. You can render all the data from a wallet address with get NFTs for address, which by the way returns images of different resolutions, as well as their description tags and other kinds of metadata. This is an example of a response. You can get all the times that an NFT has passed hands using our get NFT transactions for contract endpoint, allowing you to build a table like this one. You can find out all the NFT token holders as well as how many NFTs of a particular collection they own using our get token holders as of any block height endpoint. And of course, if you need to build an individual NFT details page, several of our endpoints will fit your needs. At its core, GameFi, or at least in its current form, can be reduced to NFTs traded through a game interface via on-chain transactions. In-game events are typically stored as on-chain transactions, which can be retrieved with Covalent. Let's take a look at 2 examples of GameFi use cases. GameFi marketplace, for instance, XC. A GameFi marketplace tends to be exactly the same as an NFT marketplace. Each character tends to be NFTs. As such, you'll be able to retrieve all your users' GameFi NFTs via Covalent's get NFTs for address endpoint. And you'll be able to display all the attributes of the NFT tokens as well. To verify ownership of a particular character, in this case, you can use Covalent's check ownership in NFT collection endpoint. Rendering all GameFi NFTs within a collection can be done with the get NFTs from contract with metadata endpoint. You can also track very specific in-game events with the Covalent API as long as they're on-chain. Take, for instance, the table below, which tracks the latest XE spawns. Again, everything there was built with Covalent's get log endpoint along with a get a transaction endpoint to retrieve additional details. What it tells us is the latest XCs that are spawned on-chain, their IDs, who they belong to, the breed number, as well as the cost it took in terms of the AXS and SLP tokens to spawn them. Without a service like Covalent API, it's very difficult to get these high-level information. Covalent's XY equals to K endpoints are very useful for building DEX analytics dashboards. You can display all the token pools currently within a DEX, arranged according to the 24-hour volume and TVL, for instance. You can get in-depth financial information of a single liquidity pool, such as the total tokens within a pool, their values, the pool TVL, 24-hour volume, 24-hour fees, and even the open-close high-low time series of volume liquidity fees for up to 30 days. There's parameters for you to specify how many days data you want to return. Also, you can get all the latest transactions of each liquidity pool, allowing you to display a table like number 3 above. Building a multi-chain block explorer like the one above is also really simple with the Covalent API. You can get every single transaction along with the events emitted across 100+ chains really quickly. As you can see, it looks just like our transaction explorer, but all those transactions are from within that particular block. Using the classy get transactions by wallet address endpoint, you'll be able to get a list of all the user swaps on Curve, for instance. You can see that this user has made a lot of USDT swap to USDC. So the following protocols are currently supported. We've got Aave, Balancer, Compound, Curve, Dodo, Frax, Instadep, Lido, and Yearn. For our liquidity providers out there, you can get your LP token holdings as well as the redeemable value using our API. In this example, the user has around 891,003 CRV token, which can be redeemed for a breakdown of around like 380K DAI, 342K USDC, and 186K USDT. All these can be quite confusing if you don't have this data. You only have the balance of your CRV token. If you need to know what liquidity pools there are on various protocols, what their APYs are for the yield farmers out there, anyone, and the amount of tokens that are within, you can use our get all market endpoint. For instance, using our get all curve market endpoint, you'll be able to see all the liquidity pools on Curve along with the pool type. Are they a plain pool or a crypto pool? There's that difference if you're familiar with Curve, and their APYs as well as the amount of actual tokens that are within the pool. So hopefully that gave you a broad idea of some of the most popular use cases that developers have used Covalent for. And the thing to take away here is that Covalent is perhaps the fastest way for a dev to get aggregated on-chain data and start building Web3 front-end interfaces or applications. And lastly, in our Unified API documentations page, you'll find in-depth step-to-step tutorials on how to build a lot of these use cases in React. Do check them out and give it a spin yourself.
Thank you so much, Leibing, for going over all the product use cases and what people are able to build. So basically, why you should build with Covalent is that it's fast. It's the easiest way to build Web3 front ends. The data is consistent across 100 chains that we've indexed. There's also no infrared maintenance costs, which reduces the go-to-market time. And you can also focus on your Web3 backend and UI experience. But if someone were to want to build projects like this, would they need any coding experience?
So Covalent actually has a Google Sheets option where for all these API, you just plot the URL into the browser with a specific parameter of CSV equals to true. You can download all this data into a CSV format or a Google Sheet or Excel format. So we do support that as well. So for all analysts out there who want to get the crypto data from across 100 chains and you don't have coding experience, please try that. We have further instructions on the documentation as well. But my final remark is that, the more you try yourself, the more you learn about what exactly on-chain data you can get. And then the more you know about that, the more you know what you can build. So the ideas really start from knowing what the data is and how easy it is to get it. And then we wish you all the best in your building journey.
So it's great to know that you don't need any coding experience to build these amazing projects. Can we expect to have you on more Hidden Gems episodes for you to go over more project use cases or things that people have built using the API?
Absolutely. Anytime that you would like me here, hit me up. I'll be here to talk about it.
Alrighty. Well, we'll see you guys later. Thanks for joining.
Bye, guys.